Have you ever wondered why we're constantly bombarded with discussions about toxic masculinity these days? It seems like everywhere we turn, someone is telling men how they should or shouldn't behave. In this video, we're diving into a controversial but important topic that affects all of us: the ongoing debate about masculinity in our modern world. The term toxic masculinity is constantly thrown around, and yet, despite all the criticism, women across cultures still seem to be drawn to men who embody traditional masculine traits. That's an interesting contradiction, isn't it? The media loves to paint certain displays of masculinity as outdated or even harmful, yet when we step outside of this Western media bubble, reality tells a different story. Women still consistently gravitate toward men who display qualities like strength, confidence, leadership, and decisiveness. It's something we all notice but rarely talk about openly. If traditional masculinity is supposedly toxic, why do so many women still find it attractive? The answer is simple: human nature doesn't change just because social narratives do. In the modern world, the way masculinity is perceived depends largely on where you are. In much of Western culture, there's a growing push to redefine what it means to be a man. Traditional masculine traits are often discouraged in favor of a more neutral, softened metrosexual ideal, but in many other parts of the world, the concept of masculinity hasn't changed nearly as much. In Mexico and throughout Latin America, the idea of machismo still incorporates protection, provision, and strength as core masculine values. In Eastern Europe, many women prefer men who embrace traditional roles, seeing them as strong and dependable partners. And in much of Asia, traditional gender roles remain deeply ingrained, respected, and largely unquestioned. A big reason for this cultural divide comes down to media influence. Did you know that a handful of major corporations control nearly 80% of what people watch and read? Companies like Disney, Comcast, and Warner Bros. Discovery have an enormous influence on shaping public narratives, including the way masculinity is portrayed. This isn't to suggest some grand conspiracy, but when only a few companies control most of the content, it inevitably leads to a limited range of perspectives. Imagine if you could only shop at one store for all your clothes. You'd end up looking like everyone else. In the same way, these media giants push a very specific image of what they consider the ideal man. More often than not, it's someone who rejects traditional masculine traits in favor of a more subdued, less assertive persona. This is where figures like Andrew Tate become so polarizing. Love him or hate him, he's one of the most talked about voices in discussions about masculinity today. His critics say he represents everything wrong with traditional masculinity, calling him outdated, extreme, or even dangerous. Yet, his massive following suggests something interesting. Many people, especially men, feel that he's saying things they aren't hearing anywhere else. So, why do some women find his brand of masculinity appealing? The answer comes down to something surprisingly simple: transparency. Tate is transparent about who he is and what he believes and the kind of relationships he expects. Women who are drawn to that type of masculinity know exactly what they're getting into. Compare that to men who outwardly reject traditional masculinity, presenting themselves as modern, sensitive, and progressive, only to later display controlling, manipulative, or resentful behavior behind closed doors. Which is actually more harmful: the man who is honest about his worldview, or the one who pretends to be something he's not? Let me share two real-life examples. My friend Elena grew up in a traditional Eastern European household. When she moved to the United States for college, she was baffled by American dating culture. In my country, she told me, men are not ashamed to be men. They open doors, they protect you, they take charge. They're not afraid to show strength. Here, many men seem afraid to show any masculine traits at all. It's like they've been castrated. Elena eventually married a man who embodied the values she grew up with. Not because she was oppressed, but because that's what she genuinely preferred. Now let's contrast that with another experience. I know a man, let's call him James, who on the surface seemed like the perfect modern partner. He championed gender equality, rejected traditional masculinity, and embraced everything the media praises in a non-toxic male. He was sensitive, non-confrontational, and always said the right things. But behind closed doors, it was a different story. He subtly controlled his partner for years, undermining her confidence while maintaining his perfect partner image to the world. The disconnect between his words and actions left her confused and emotionally drained. It makes you wonder, would you rather date someone like James, or someone who is upfront about their beliefs and behaviors from day one? This brings us to the provocative question: why do many women secretly prefer Andrew Tate's version of masculinity? The reason isn't that all women agree with his views, it's because his brand of masculinity is visible, obvious and transparent. If a woman meets someone with this clearly displayed approach to masculinity, she immediately knows what she's getting into. She can make an informed choice. Yes, this is what I want, or no, this isn't for me. There's no bait and switch. Contrast that with the countless relationships that fall apart because men present themselves as non-toxic and progressive, only to later reveal controlling, passive-aggressive, or manipulative tendencies. These wolves in sheep's clothing cause far more harm precisely because their true nature is hidden behind a carefully crafted exterior. In a diverse world, it's incredibly presumptuous for any one culture or ideology to declare what counts as toxic masculinity. What's considered toxic in a San Francisco tech startup might be seen as virtuous in a rural Texas town in Poland or in Nigeria. Cultural context matters enormously, yet the mainstream narrative often ignores this reality. I've seen this play out with two different couples. Mark and Lisa met at a progressive university. Mark was the poster boy for the modern sensitive man. He cried during movies, always asked for consent, and never showed any toxic traits. Lisa thought she had found the perfect guy. 3 years later she realized he had been subtly manipulating her, controlling her spending, and resenting her success. His non-toxic public image was just gift wrapping on a very toxic package. Then there's Diego and Ana. From day one, Diego made it clear he was old school. He wanted to be the provider, the protector, and expected certain traditional things from a relationship. But he was also clear about what he offered in return: loyalty, security, and unwavering support. Ana knew exactly what she was signing up for, and they're still happily married 15 years later. So, where does this leave us? None of this means that every traditional man is a good partner, or that every modern man is manipulative. But it does raise an important point. Honesty matters more than following a specific narrative. A man who is clear about his values, even if controversial, allows women to make an informed choice about whether those values align with their own. That's far more respectful than pretending to be something you're not, just to win approval or attraction. And that's why I argue that Andrew Tate's brand of masculinity, controversial as it may be, is much better in one specific way. It's honest. You know what you're getting? There's no pretense, no hidden agenda. A woman can look at someone like Tate and immediately decide if that's compatible with what she wants in a partner. With the non-toxic pretenders, you might not discover the truth until you're already emotionally invested, legally bound, or financially destroyed. The funny thing is, across most of history and much of the world today, traditional masculinity, with its emphasis on strength, protection, and provision, is valued and respected. Yet, in Western media and universities, these traits are suddenly considered problematic. But even in those same countries we see the same pattern over and over, on dating shows, in real life, in attraction dynamics. Women still pick the strong, confident men while the nice guys get sent home early. I'm not saying all traditional masculine traits are good or that we can't improve how men and women relate, but pretending we can completely rewrite human nature through a few Twitter hashtags is like trying to teach your cat to bark. Good luck with that. The reality is that human attraction and relationship dynamics are complex and deeply rooted in both biology and culture. No amount of social engineering can completely override these fundamental aspects of human nature. Here's another way to look at it. Andrew Tate is like that friend who tells you your outfit looks terrible before you leave the house. Painful? Yes. But at least you don't find out later from all the weird looks and Instagram comments. The non-toxic pretenders are like friends who say you look amazing in something awful, then let you embarrass yourself all night. Even if you disagree with Tate's views, you have to admit there's value in his transparency. It's like that brutally honest product review that saves you from wasting your money. You might not like the message, but you're better off hearing it. Look, at the end of the day, what matters most in relationships isn't whether someone fits the latest definition of non-toxic. It's whether they're honest about who they are. Someone can check all the right boxes on paper but still make you miserable. And sometimes the person who breaks all the new rules might actually make you happiest. Whether those values are traditional or progressive doesn't matter as much as whether they're genuinely held and clearly communicated. When both people know exactly what they're signing up for, they can build something real together. So what do you think? Would you rather date someone who is upfront about their values even if they're old school, or someone who hides their true nature behind whatever's trending on social media this week? If you've found this perspective thought-provoking, whether you agree or disagree, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want more content that challenges conventional wisdom and makes you think, hit that subscribe button. I promise to keep bringing you fresh perspectives that go beyond what everyone else is saying. Because in a world where everyone's trying to be politically correct, sometimes the most refreshing thing is a little honest incorrectness. Until next time, remember, in a world of pretenders, authenticity is revolutionary.